Sydney Sweeney just dropped an absolute bombshell on Ryan Reynolds after exposing his dirty little secret that was never supposed to see daylight. She wasn't even trying to start drama. Someone else was running their mouth, and somehow Sydney ended up blacklisted from 3 movies.
I would never actually do this, like ever. But I think it's really important for people to see how words actually affect people, because it's really fucked up.
She didn't name names. She didn't spill secrets. But the pain in her voice and the weight behind her words shattered the carefully curated illusion that everything in her world was fine. In that single, vulnerable moment, it became clear. Something was deeply wrong. And from that point forward, the ground beneath her image began to shift. Then, just days later, she showed up at Stagecoach 2025. Not hiding, not shrinking, but radiating confidence. Bold, smiling, and arm in arm with her Anyone But You co-star Brandon Sklenar. Yes, that Brandon, the very one she once publicly downplayed having chemistry with. Their sudden closeness raised eyebrows, especially because Sydney looked anything but heartbroken after her recent, very public breakup with fiancé Jonathan Davino. To casual onlookers, it may have looked like harmless fun. But to those tuned into Hollywood's subtle power games, it felt more like a statement. One PR strategist told Page Six the appearance was undeniably intentional, timed, framed, and loaded with layered meaning. In other words, this wasn't just a post-breakup rebound. It was a calculated appearance designed to send a message, not just to Davino, but to an entire industry that thrives on optics and silence.
Your life changes overnight.
But how is this whole Sydney story connected to Ryan and Blake? The online buzz is going wild, and a growing theory is gaining serious traction. Fans are pointing to a very specific timeline. Sydney Sweeney was riding high off her Paris appearance, about to headline a Netflix legal thriller, and closing in on a massive Dior campaign. Then came that flight. April 15th, Ryan Reynolds on board, Sydney in earshot. And he wasn't whispering. Sydney didn't react, but someone did. Maybe a Netflix assistant, maybe a casting executive. And suddenly, Sydney, just for being within earshot, became Hollywood's new problem. Within 48 hours, her inbox went cold. That Netflix thriller? Gone. The Dior campaign? Restructured. Emails dried up. Calls stopped. No statements. No drama. Just silence. Hollywood didn't cancel her. It vaporized her. Quietly. Strategically. And here's where the theory spirals, and fans are starting to think it's real. Ryan, knowing Sydney had overheard something he never intended anyone to hear, made a quiet call. Not loud retaliation, just soft erasure. A blacklist without ink. Whispers to studios, brand execs, producers. She's a liability. Not because she said anything, but because she could. And to be clear, it's all just wild speculation swirling online. There's no solid, hard proof backing the theory. But in Hollywood, where power moves happen in shadows, even a rumor can leave a mark.
Euphoria star Sydney Sweeney broke down in tears on an emotional live stream.
And Ryan, he kept the charade going. Still posting cheeky Instagram reels, cracking jokes like he's everyone's favorite Marvel clown. On the surface, nothing had changed. The witty captions, the carefully filtered photos, the public image of a lovable, sarcastic husband still very much intact. After destroying Sydney Sweeney's momentum in silence and loudly detonating their own reputations, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds began what can only be described as a precision-crafted campaign to rebuild their public image. Not with truth, not with accountability, but with controlled vulnerability and a carefully staged spotlight.
Press tour continues. She seems to be on this tour that's painting herself as a hero for all women. And it's pretty frustrating how Seth and just Hollywood in general seems to be accepting it.
Blake's interview on Late Night with Seth Meyers wasn't just a promo appearance. It was PR theater. Dressed in muted tones, her voice cracked just enough, her eyes welled just right. But through all the trembling words about the silence that haunts survivors, she never once said who or what she was even talking about.
They're honestly, I mean, it's no surprise I've had like a pretty intense year, and like they're just my lifeline. Like no matter what day I'm having, I have to be Disneyland every day for them, and so it's.
They're my lifeline. Oh, they've taken me away. And there's one where you're like, oh, it's so sweet. You can go be with your kids because they don't read all the news and they'll love you. They're unconditional, etc. But then she's like, it's like I have to pretend to go into Disneyland every day. Oh, it's such a chore for me. It is so hard. It is so hard for me, people. Oh.
She played the empathy card without laying any real evidence on the table.
Will you please give me more empathy? Because it's so hard being Blake Lively right now, having to go to my nannies and everybody and all these trips where clearly my kids aren't here. And you know, deal with that. And I have to be happy mama for them. I thought the whole lawsuit says you weren't. The whole lawsuit says you can't go outside. You're so bothered by it. You can't leave the house or the kids are affected.
The internet didn't bought it, but late night hosts applauded it. Influencers reposted it. But what was she actually saying? Nothing. And that, ironically, said everything. Blake didn't have to give proof. She just had to perform emotion. And the court of public opinion would write the script for her. Because while Sydney was blacklisted for staying silent, Blake was celebrated for doing exactly the same. Only with tears, a camera crew, and a primetime slot.
That Blake Lively's not being honest. And also, what are you afraid of? And what did he actually do? It's really hard to watch her now. I can't lie. It is really hard to watch her be this fake person.
And as Blake took to the airwaves, Ryan played the role of Hollywood's favorite deflector. Instagram reels, sarcastic quips, memeable moments. While his name trended for all the wrong reasons, his face stayed in everyone's feed. Still the charming Marvel clown, untouched and unfazed. But behind that smile, behind the glibness, was a man whose offhand confession about being just an image, a beard, a contract, had already set Sydney's career on fire. And instead of owning that fallout, he leaned harder into the persona. Because when you're the jester, no one asks you for the truth.
Such mixed messages from all this. And from these appearances that are telling me anything, you're not suffering any actual like work damages. Working just fine for you. People are still asking for your autograph, showing up at premieres. You're just forcing it down our throat. We're seeing it everywhere. So hard to see what you're really suffering through. Because if anybody's suffering, it's clearly the guy who's now lost his agency, his jobs, isn't out there doing anything. That's the one who's clearly losing things based on your ridiculous accusations.
The contrast couldn't be clearer. Baldoni, targeted and torched in the press. His project stalled, his name tangled in legal landmines. And Blake was winning awards for being brave. She wasn't just controlling the narrative, she was rewriting the entire script. Terstalites turning accusations into applause and questions into clout. This isn't just another Hollywood scandal, it's a masterclass in manipulation, a case study in how fame, when filtered through the right lens, can rewrite any story. And no one plays the game better than Blake and Ryan. Sydney Sweeney didn't ask to be part of this circus. She didn't leak a clip. She didn't name names. But in a town where silence can be louder than confession, her presence was enough to threaten the script. And so, while the industry props up its favorite couple and drowns inconvenient voices in silence, one thing becomes clear. Truth in Hollywood doesn't trend. Narratives do. Some disappear because they broke the rules. Others vanish just for standing too close when they were broken. In Hollywood, justice isn't served, it's managed. And silence? That's just another kind of deal. Stay loud. Stay awake. This story's not over.